I'm back. Let's get straight into the intro. Hey guys, welcome back to the DeeTimeLove show, and today you join me in the studio. Let's do a quick wristwatch check before we go into the subject matter in hand. I am wearing the Omega Seamaster Cosmic, and it's a day-date unishell case, very cool watch. You cannot get into the movement via the case back because there isn't one, it's a unishell case, so you have to get into the movement via the top half of the watch, which means you have to remove the crystal and the dial watch. I actually think it's a unique piece, a very cool retro circa early 70s watch, which I thoroughly enjoy. But today's subject is something that I have many conversations with people that subscribe to the channel, and a lot of the time is they're looking to start their first watch collection. They just bought their first mechanical watch or first quartz watch, a Citizen or a Seiko, whatever it may be, and they really want to start collecting watches. And it all comes down to your budget and the type of genre of watches you're into. Or do you want to experiment? Do you want to basically get a feel for all types of watches and then start building your collection at a higher price point? And a lot of people do tend to do that. They start off maybe with a couple of $100. They'll get a couple of Seiko or Citizen watches. It may be an aviation piece. It could be a dive watch, for example. It could be a sports chronograph watch, whatever it may be. So you get a feel for the type of watches that you enjoy, the type of watches that fit within your lifestyle, the type of watches where you put it on your wrist, it will give you major enjoyment. And that is the key. Before you start investing heavily in watches, I think it's very important to figure out what type of watch collector you want to be. Do you want to be a dive watch collector, or do you want to mix it up? Do you want to have, you know, a few chronographs, a few dive watches? Do you want a few modern pieces or vintage pieces in there? Do you want to get watches that are iconic, or do you want to get pieces that are a little bit more exclusive and you want to go down the micro brand route? It really is something that you have to decide. I think if you're going to invest heavily all in one hit, you've got to really plan how you're going to build your collection. But for me, watch collecting is a journey. It's a journey into horology. The hobby should be something that you learn as you buy each individual timepiece. So it could be that you start off with a very cliche watch, a Seiko SKX, for example, and you find that you really enjoy dive watches, but you want to go up a notch in quality. You want to start looking at watches at a higher price point. You know, something from 200 to 2,000 to 5,000 to 6,000. But I'm here to tell you guys that you can enjoy the hobby at different budgets. There's no rule in this game. There's no rule saying that you have to go and buy a Rolex Submariner or you have to buy an Omega Seamaster. There's no rule in terms of how you go about doing this. And it is a journey, and I think it really does come down to your budget and what you feel you can spend on a particular timepiece. Now, I've got a rule that you should never spend more than 10% of your annual basic salary, okay? So if you're on a 60K job, I think you should only spend 10%. So you should never spend more than 6K on watches in any particular year, because you've got to be responsible. I know a lot of other YouTubers are like, it doesn't hurt, it doesn't matter. But I think, look, you've got to be responsible and say to yourself, look, what can I afford to lose in a particular product, in this instance, a timepiece? And a lot of the rule that I've got is don't spend more than 10% of what you're earning, because then this hobby can get out of control. Because believe me, watch addiction, and I've put a video out of this before, watch addiction is a real addiction. You know, you will want the next thrill. So if you spend too much at the beginning, you can find yourself in some real financial trouble. So for me, guys, is look at what you can afford. Maybe 10% of your salary is a good figure to start, depending whether you've got a mortgage or you're renting. Make sure before you spend any money, you can afford to pay the bills. That would be the first thing I would take in consideration. Secondly, if you've got that covered, if you can afford 10% of your annual basic salary, so let's say you're on 30k or lower than that, 20, whatever, part-time job, whatever it is, make sure you've got that money, you can afford to lose it. And it's not going to affect the balance of your life, okay? Your physical environment, your housing, your food, and so on, your family. Make sure you've really got your budget and you've calculated your budget, and then start to maybe spend a little bit less. Experiment on terms of what you like, what genre of watches, but I'll put a plan together and set a goal of what you hope to achieve in your collection. Because a lot of the time what will happen is, if you go off the cuff, you buy randomly, that I've done over the years, then you waste a lot of money, end up selling, and you can lose a lot of money from doing that. If you want to play it safe, stick to the iconic models, watches that you can flip and get your money back. Excuse me, if you want to go down that path. But decide on your budget, okay? Take many things in consideration. Like I said, I think a good rule is take 10% of your annual salary, but also look at whether you can afford to pay the rent, the mortgage, the food. You don't want it to affect your social life and your personal life badly. Then look at the genre of watches you want to get into. Put a plan together of how you want to progress in your watch collecting. But most importantly, do as much research as you can. Research is king. But rule number one, don't spend more than 10% of your annual basic salary. Because if you do that, you're putting yourself under severe pressure, and then the watch journey tends to be not that enjoyable. Look at maybe ways that you can get out of that timepiece if you have to. But guys, it's all about each individual's preferences. Everybody is different, because everyone would be collecting the same watches. If everybody was the same, it would be a very boring hobby. There are certain things you want to avoid in this hobby, and those are designer watches, you know, that don't have any real substance to them, and it's like throwing your money down the drain, you know. And micro brands, they're good and bad, you know. I don't think you really should start your collection with micro brands. They're add-on watches. If it's something that you really like the look of, then buy it. That's fair enough. But maybe look at the more traditional watch manufacturing brands, from your Citizens, Seikos, Hamiltons, Omegas, Rolex, Breitling, and the list goes on. There's thousands of, you know, real watch manufacturing brands. You may want to go vintage, but you've got to be very careful on that. Do your research. So if someone's starting the hobby, I don't normally suggest go vintage. I am blabbing a little bit, but I want to give you guys an honest opinion. And you can go vintage. If you want to start off a watch collection at a reasonable budget, maybe look at the Omegas watches, you know, like this one here. Cosmics are really cool, but they're a little bit small for people, you know, at 35mm. There's got some really cool Zenith watches, jumbo size, at 37mm. I'll leave a link to the description below of what I advise about vintage watches. But just to summarize, and I'll add a few questions. The reason why I'm discussing this today, I had 2 or 3 questions that were quite similar, so I'll wrap it all into one. Decide on your budget. This is the key. And quantity is not over. I wouldn't say quantity is better than quality. You've got to decide what you want out of watches. But if you want to spread it out and experiment with different genres, maybe split your budget up and say, I'm going to get, you know, for example, I'm going to get an aviation watch, I'm going to get a dive watch, and I'm going to get a dress watch, for example. That will cover each segment, and then get a feel for what you want and what you enjoy, and take it from there. So let's summarize. Budget, 10% of your annual basic salary. Don't spend more than that. Genre, types of watches you want to get into, and then plan your collection. Plan how you're going to initiate this collection. What do you hope to achieve from this collection? And it is a journey, and I suggest that you don't do it all in one hit, because you'll find it very hard to fulfill your needs and your expectations straight away. So it is a journey. Enjoy the hobby, take care, and I'll see you in the next video.